not everyone should be an entrepreneur. Like it's the very flashy thing right now. And it's like, be your own boss and do your own thing. And I get that. And I did that. And you did that. And I understand. But the reality is to be an incredible number two for someone where you can support their visions and their dreams and you can execute some of those things. I'm a visionary through and through. I need executors, implementers, people that can actually boots on the ground, move these things forward.
Yo, what's going on? Welcome to the Best Bet Show. I'm your host, Best Bet Dan, and I got a phenomenal episode for you today. It's actually going to be crazy. So I'm in the studio with Mike Thomas. I'm going to introduce him in a second, but before we go there, real quick, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and listen, sharing is caring. So tell a friend to tell a friend. But we got a great show for you. Mike Thomas.
Boom.
Welcome to the Best Bet Show, my guy.
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me. Just super excited to be here. You know, I think you and I have known each other for, it's got to be like...
Bro, since Fisher.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably 2008, 2009,
yeah,
something like that.
It's been a minute.
So really honored to be here.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So the journey, it's funny, so I remember at Fisher, right? Because I call myself an honorary Fisher grad.
Yeah.
Because Rob's senior year, so for those of you who don't know, we met through a mutual friend, Rob Taylor.
Yep.
So Rob Taylor, his senior year, I lived on campus with him that year. Like I was there all the time. But degree is in marketing, correct? So tell me a little bit about just like the degree and getting that done.
Yeah, so I grew up in Northern Virginia. My dad was a candy salesman, so he worked for M&M Mars, sold Starburst, Skittles, M&Ms. I was the coolest kid around Halloween time.
So I should send my dental bills to him?
Well, I was going to say, the cavities are out of control right now, there's no question. But my parents are high school sweethearts from Livonia, so they had a cottage up in Honeoye. Every summer we'd come up, and I'm a huge Buffalo Bills fan, so we went to training camp and the whole deal. And then I just fell in love with the Fisher campus, and I showed up. I was a community service scholar, so basically a portion of my schooling was paid for, obviously dependent upon community service hours and stuff. So Fisher was great, man. What brought me there was obviously kind of the bills and some of that dynamic, but what really kept me there was a lot of the relationships and community that I was able to form. And what I like about a private school is like, a lot of those people end up kind of staying in the region as well. So again, the honorary grad like you and I are still connecting and doing business together. So yeah, Fisher was fantastic, and I'm still very much involved. I teach a night class in marketing every once in a while, usually once a semester, and then there's a couple of panels and different things that I go on, which is really fun. So
love it.
Yeah.
So you graduate from Fisher, and then you immediately go to work for a church. So you got a marketing degree, and then we end up. So how did that happen?
So here's the deal. I didn't grow up going to church. And when I was like 17, 18 years old, I really found purpose in my life through Jesus, through faith, right? Through all those dynamics. So for me, I didn't really have any like church hurt or things that I needed to like unlearn or like whatever else. I was just like, yo, I just got saved. Everybody's got to know about this. Like, this is unbelievable. So for me, I was like on fire in college and just, so excited about that whole dynamic.
And that's how we met, was through some of those kind of campus ministry things. I would go with Rob, and then boom, Mike was like running stuff. Yeah,
we started a Campus Crusade for Christ on the Fisher campus. So predominantly Catholic school, which, all good there, but they had a lot of, Catholic specific ministry type things. And I was like, hey, what if we have like an interdenominational where kind of everybody's welcome and meet people where they are type of deal. So we quickly became the fastest growing club on campus. And, rather than saying, hey, how can we save the whole campus? We started asking the question, how can we serve the whole campus? And what ended up happening is, I'll never forget one Valentine's Day, we all came together with Rob and a couple others. We were like, all right, every single woman on this campus deserves a flower on Valentine's Day. And some of the single guys were like, yeah, let's go. I'm like, no, it's not about that. But let's just, every single person, staff, faculty, students, let's get every single girl a flower. I don't know what that's going to cost. I don't know how we're going to get this budget, but let's make it happen. So we get all these flowers in, and I'll never forget, man, I went up to a woman who was working in the dining hall, and she had Down syndrome. And, she was like cleaning the dishes in the back, and we just went up to her and handed her a flower, and I'll get choked up thinking about it. But it's like in that moment, I just watched something happen where it was like, I love Jesus and I love preaching the gospel and inviting people into community in that way. But there's something so much like, I don't want to say more fulfilling, but there's something more impactful when you can actually become the hands and feet of him, as opposed to just preaching about him or talking about him.
Right.
So that's really what ended up happening there. But the reason I share that story is because I didn't grow up in church. So when it was time for me to take a job, that community service site of mine was the Father's House, which is an awesome church in Chilai. And I looked at my dad, who helped me pay for college, and I go, all right, so I'm going to take a 20-hour-a-week job right after I got this really expensive degree.
Right. How did he take that?
Well, how do you think he took it, bro? I mean, we were sitting in a Tim Hortons in Chilai, and my mom was crying. My dad's looking at me
like... Not the
like,
tears.
Oh, bro.
They got that real?
Dude, it was so real because they spent all this money and I'm sitting there like, I'm so excited. Like, I'm so excited to tell you that, and they're great parents and stuff. But they just kind of looked at me like, I don't think this is a great idea, right? But in that moment, I think it was the first time, and I think for a lot of younger people listening, there's this transition moment in your life where you have to go from being a son to being your own man.
Right.
And that was one of those first pivotal moments for me where it was like, hey, even if I let them down, if I really know that this is what God's called me to do, I can't let the approval or the opinions of somebody else dictate what I know God's called me to. And so that was a really big moment for me.
I'm going to jump in there for a second. I love that because that's one thing I've been talking to a lot of young people about is the fact that in our culture, like American culture, if you will, we don't have a definite rite of passage.
Yep.
It is so gray because you graduate from high school, you turn 18, but then we got the 21 mark, but then the way our culture is set up, right? A lot of times parents are paying for college and you're in and out during college. And so you've got this gray area between 17, 18, and then like 23, 24, where it's funny, parents will tell you to be an adult. As soon as you go to make an adult decision, they'll tell you you're not an adult, which you probably heard that.
You're right.
You know, and so it's so amazing to hear you say that you were able to, you had that within you to make that decision, because a lot of young people are actually struggling with that very thing where it's just like, because they have not been affirmed as adults. And so that was just crazy for you to be able to within yourself do that. But yeah, that's a side note.
And I'll just add to that, like, and we were talking about this before the podcast, like, a lot of people will say things like, man, middle school is the most awkward stage of your life. And I agree in terms of like the physical things that are happening to you. But I would challenge it and say, I think the most awkward season of your life is that 18 to 25 window. Because you got some people that are taking these great jobs out of college and you're looking at them like, dang, must be nice. I wish I had a job like that.
Right.
You got people getting married, having kids. You got people out partying, living their life, doing whatever, traveling, whatever. And then you get stuck in this spot of this like comparison trap of, I don't think I'm there yet. I haven't quite achieved it yet. Right. And so again, for me, I think that I love what you're doing for that pocket of the generation, because it's a really awkward time. And again, people are looking for guidance. They are looking for affirmation. And again, I think community is a huge, huge part of that, where at the end of the day, on a pure human level, all we are looking for from a mentor, a friend, anybody, is we just want to know, are we doing okay?
Right.
We just want to know that we can have relationships that don't require anything from us, but they love us regardless.
Right.
They're here in our corner regardless. And those are hard to find, because work relationships, you got to do something in order to get affirmed. Even in some marriages and different components, like it's works based. And I think for really healthy baseline levels of humanity, we're just simply looking for acceptance before we even do anything.
Right. All right. So boom, you have this conversation and you tell your parents straight up, like, I'm standing on business. I'm about to go work this 20-hour-a-week job. So tell me about like that phase in that season, of working at the church, and, were you expected to grow the youth ministry? Were you expected to do a lot of counseling? Like, what did that season look like? I'm a really hungry dude in the sense that I never quite feel like I've arrived.
And I say that, and I've matured into that, of course, but I always want to be learning, whether it's podcasts like this one, or it's books or conferences or events or whatever it is. I'm always hungry to learn more. So one of the first things that I discovered when I got in there was I need to find some mentors within this job that can really help guide me and shape me to do this position the absolute best that I can. And so the Father's House had a beautiful internship program and some great leaders in front of me where I was really able to learn. And the pastor, I think 2 or 3 years in, ended up grabbing a couple of us and saying, hey, we're going to help you guys get your master's in theology. We're gonna do schooling together, and we're gonna continue to sharpen our sword in this way. And so for me, what ended up happening was, number one, it was hard. Because I had this tension between what my parents expected and wanted for me and what I felt like God was calling me to be.
Sure.
There was a conflict there. But what ended up happening is the fruit of my individual pursuit ended up positively impacting my parents. So one of the kind of things that I would just say in conclusion of that is if you're out there and if you're, watching this and maybe you feel like, man, like, whether it's your parent or it's somebody else, I just don't know if they're going to agree with this. If you know deep in your soul and your spirit that this is what you're supposed to do, when you take that step, it will in turn impact those people that you feel like you're letting down in a positive way.
1,000,000%. Like, I honestly couldn't agree with that more, because I had a similar situation, except for my conversation was I was dropping out of school.
Sure.
And I'll never forget, my dad looked at me and said, boy, you better get a job. And it was intense. It was very intense. But then, they saw that I was serious about, just pursuing some entrepreneurship things. And I want to say within a year and a half, I had a TV show.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool. So difficulty, right? Like, outside of what you went through with your parents, what else was difficult about that season? And how would you say that you earned your stripes?
Yeah. When you're passionate about something, you will not look at the clock. You will not look at your bank account. And you will just pour your guts into that thing.
Absolutely.
And that's awesome. It's admirable. And especially in that season of my life, my early 20s, I didn't have a wife and kids and other responsibilities. I could go to the student sports games. I could drive them late to Taco Bell and, hang out.
Yeah.
All those components that were required. I think when I started to really earn my stripes was when I sat back, not in a selfish way, but in just a holistic thinking about the future way. What do I want from my life?
Yeah.
Like, actually answering that question instead of what does everybody else want for my life? What do I want for my life?
Right.
And when I started to come to grips with that, I realized that there were just specific goals that I had. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. I wanted to have the time to be around my kids and raise them properly. But I also wanted to make an impact. And so I think as I was maturing and getting older, I started to realize that, nonprofit church work, like, the wages that are in there and the time commitment required, it doesn't always, it's not always conducive for those other goals, right?
It's not congruent.
Yeah, and again, I'm not jabbing it or whatever, it's just...
It is what it is.
Yeah, and in the season I was there, it was beautiful, and I think for me, I started to have that kind of internal turmoil, which ultimately leads to that next part of this equation, which is, to look at your boss, your pastor, like people that have invested in you, help me go to grad school, help me do all of these things. And to tell them and have really difficult conversations with them, it was like that moment with my parents all over again.
Yeah.
Because now I'm like, shoot, like, I would love to stay here forever, but there's this other voice in me that is drawing me and calling me to what's next and a new opportunity. And so it's hard, but when I earned my stripes was honestly in that conversation at Tim Hortons. That was that first moment of, I'm my own person and I'm a recovering people pleaser. But if you stay in that space of pleasing people, you will always be the one that's left empty.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And even what you said about, having those thoughts about building life. So I was talking to actually, ironically, a few Fisher students a few days ago, and they're both juniors. And shout out to you guys. You know who you are. I'm gonna send you guys both the pod too.
I love it.
But I began to talk to them about not so much thinking about what they're going to do, but how they want to live. and start to reverse engineer it now, where it's like, yo, we all work to not work. Like, that's the end goal, right? Whenever you get a job, or even when you start a company, right? We think about the exit. If you start a company, how am I going to sell this, or how is it going to get me to a point where I don't have to do it anymore, right? But I have built the system. But when you go start a job, the first thing you do is you start a retirement account.
Yeah.
Day one is figuring out, okay, how are we going to stop doing this, right? So if the whole thing is you work to not work, then why don't we put more emphasis on the life outside of work? And how can we find work? How can we find purposes or an exchange of value that will serve how we want to live, versus us always serving the work or the job, which at the end of the day, I mean, we've seen it happen. Like, somebody dies and then their job is posted within 48 hours because guess what? That cog is going to keep turning. It's going to keep spinning. So I wanted to pull that out because you actually, you said that, you know, and that's what you're alluding to. And I think if we can get more young people to start to really endeavor into thinking about, how do I want to live? What kind of life do I want? So you start that next step. So talk about the transition. Talk about, like, when did you know it was time to make the move, and where was the next step?
Yeah, so I actually had this big, this is back to the people pleaser thing. I had this big offer from a church out in San Diego, California. I was going to help them launch an internship program and run their young adult ministry. And I had this big Facebook, which that even saying Facebook's going to age me a little bit, but I had this big Facebook, Instagram post that was all queued up and ready to go. My wife and I taking our talents to South Beach, right? Like, we're ready to go. But you know, like I had this big post ready, and we prayed about it, you know, all these kind of things. And long story short, we got pregnant with our first child, and we got all of our family here on the East Coast and everything else. And we felt like, back to the goals, we felt like we wanted to raise our children, you know, around family. Yeah. And so we said no to this job, and I ended up taking this incredible job, but running marketing for a home service company that does furnaces, air conditioners, plumbing, things like that. So again, I want you to think about this for a second. You're in this place where, in my mind, I've crafted this perfect exit plan. Right. Everyone's going to be so proud of me. All the comments are going to fire in. Like, wow.
Dopamine on a million.
Yeah, Mike and Alicia must be doing so well. God must be blessing them. This is incredible. Yeah. And I went from that to, I'm done with the church, and I take this job in the middle of nowhere. And one traffic light town, 45-minute drive out, 45-minute drive home. And that whole first month, 2 months, first year of that job, every day that I'm driving out there, I'm like, God, are you sure? Are you sure this is where I'm supposed to be? Like, did I make a mistake? Like, did I jump out too soon? Or like, was I impatient, or what's going on? And so the best way I can describe it is, I went from a passion-filled job, but underpaid. Then the pendulum swung all the way over here to a properly paid job, but no passion. So I started to realize that, hey, I love the passion side of this one. And certainly the compensation is good over here, but how do I figure out a way to merge these things? And is that even possible? Right. And so that was the biggest dynamic for me. And I'll just say, and I said this on a previous podcast, like, when COVID hit, and I say this respectfully because I know it was a really challenging time for everybody, like, our first son was born, and I got to spend his whole first year of life with him, going on family walks and being with him with every meal, and, you know, all of those dynamics. And I remember asking myself the question, is it possible to live first and work second? Doesn't mean I'm going to work less. It's just, I just asked the question, is it possible to do this? And so I started really just sharpening my skills, and I realized at that point, man, I can do some of this marketing stuff for other businesses. And so that was really the genesis of how Thomas Media Group got started as well.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. So Triple O, you were in charge of, can I say that?
Oh, yeah, I love Triple O. All right. They're still a client.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So you were doing all of their marketing stuff. And so would you say that, you know, what you were doing there, that kind of helped to be that platform for you to jump off to start the media group?
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think I want to be really careful how I'm saying this to, you know, younger people listening. You never want to treat a job as a launching pad. It will naturally happen if you're doing the job correctly.
That's a fact.
And I think
love that.
where it gets really shallow and it gets a little shady is if you're just going to some opportunity because you think it looks good on your resume, you're not going to last very long there.
Right.
Because you need to be all in. The Bible says, let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Right.
The amount of people that have quiet quit over the years, maybe people that are listening right now that have quiet quit and they've still been in the same job for a year and a half. The idea is whatever you have your hands doing, do it with the best of your ability. If you don't, then it's not going to be a launching pad for you.
Right.
If you do, it's going to teach you skills and develop things in you that will prepare you for that next season for you.
Right, right. Because that's the thing too is everyone is attracted to excellence.
Yeah.
Everyone is attracted to the all in. Like that's what brings people in. Like it's funny. I was when I talk to students, prospective students that I'm going to work with Best Bet, I believe in what I do. Like I just believe it. And I was talking to one young lady, and we had a conversation about enrolling. And you know, she's already a college grad, and she ended up enrolling herself. But one of the things she said to me, she said, I've never met anyone who was so passionate about like what they were doing and their ability to help somebody. And she was just like, this is like new to me. She's like, I love it. But it was just, and I said, because if I don't do this, who will? You know, like I've got to be my own biggest fan. Like I can't hold punches because what I'm doing, it's very unique in the sense that, you know, I'm starting to see more people train along these lines now. But that excellence, that passion, like that is what that's the attractive thing. That's the magnet.
Yeah.
So
and I'm not saying for young people to just be job hopping and all those kind of things, but I will say, in your 20s, that is the time to figure out what are you good at and what are you not good at.
Right.
What do you like and what don't you like? And you can't figure that out in your 30s. I mean, you could try, but that's not the right time to do that.
Sure.
So for you to really get that sample size in your 20s, and listen, if you love to travel and if that inspires you and you get out there and you learn all sorts of different things from different cultures, then go travel before you have kids and, you know, you have all these other, you know, things that are depending on you. Because again, one of the greatest gifts of turning 30, I'm 35 now, was just, I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at.
right.
I can read self-help books and try to get different dynamics of like the weaknesses of my job life, or I can double down, triple down on the things that I know God has put me on this planet to do.
Right.
And then I'll make more money and can hire the people to come and support in those areas that I'm weak in.
Right. And that's what builds a healthy ecosystem.
Yep.
Because now home is healthy because you're healthy. And because you're healthy, the business is healthy. Because the business is healthy, you have other people and other lives you get to affect because you get to pay them what they're worth, because there's a value in being able to support someone. There's a value in a season. You know, some people stay in that season longer, some people it's shorter. But to be a pillar of something great, I think that so many people, not even just young people, so many people in general will despise being a support person and being a behind the scenes person. But what a lot of people don't realize is that those behind the scenes people, they actually they hold like heavy amounts of weight. You know what I'm saying? In terms of them being the glue that keeps things together. So, and it's so funny that you just said that, because I'm literally sitting here going, I really want to talk about not everyone should be an entrepreneur. Like it's the very flashy thing right now. It's like, be your own boss and do your own thing. And I get that. And I did that and you did that. And I understand. But the reality is, to be an incredible number two for someone, where you can support their visions and their dreams and you can execute some of those things. I'm a visionary through and through. I need executors, implementers, people that can actually boots on the ground, move these things forward. If I don't have them, my visions are just dreams. Right? If I can bring them in, they may not be dreamers, or they may not have this big vision for what or how to do something, or rather, they may not have a vision for what to do, but they're going to know how to do it. Right. And I think that's the real win of that portion of your 20s. Figure out where you can provide the most value. And this is very important, figure out where you can provide the most value, and don't limit that to your title. Because if your job title says one thing and you exceed that,
your value is so much higher, not just for that position, but for future positions or future work that you're going to do.
Right. It's funny too, because like we live in a dynamic now where people are quiet quitting, where they don't want to do a cent more than what they're paid to do, right? But then you have people who understand that, like, yo, like when you create value, like that's how you solidify like that you need me, you got to keep me here, like that's what makes me indispensable. But talk about maybe having, when you are that person who's a value driven person, but also not being abused as well, because I think that's important, because
of course
so many times you have people who they will come early and stay late, but then all too often those are the ones who the company will treat the worst. So what do you say to a young person in a situation like that?
So I'm going to say something that I hope comes out correctly. When I worked in the church, there were people that left around the same time as me that claimed that they were abused, meaning, and I'm not talking about like legitimate abuse. I'm saying that they claimed that they were overworked, underpaid. It was an unhealthy atmosphere, right? Like they were saying all these things. I was in the same atmosphere, and I left in a healthy way. Now, I'm not saying I'm this great person or whatever else, but
it is what it is.
But the reason that I bring it up is because if your soul is not right, like if your spirit is not at peace and at rest, you could be in any environment. You could be in the healthiest of environments, but if you still feel like there's this agitation with everybody, or like you just can't get on the same page, and oh man, these people are always asking me to do something, I don't want to, this and that. What happens is you think, if I can just escape this, I'm going to get away from this. And you cannot get away from yourself.
Right.
So you can travel, you can get into a new marriage, you can get a new boyfriend or a girlfriend, you can get a new job, whatever you want to do. But if you do not take advantage,
you always got to bring you.
You have to. And again, I think it's just really important to bring up, and I'm not jabbing at anybody else that's transitioned out or whatever from my time, but it's like at some point, you have to ask that question, is this the problem or am I the problem? If everybody in your world is a problem, then you may be the problem, you know? And I think we have to have those real conversations. And that goes back to the community dynamic, what we talked about. Like, I think your program is a perfect example of people don't know how to process these things when they're happening unless they have someone that's already gone through that stage of life. And they can invite them through it. And again, I'm very grateful for what you're doing, because I think it's incredibly needed in our region. And again, you have to be faithful with what you have today, with what's in front of you today. And you may not have the dream marriage or the dream job right now, but you've got you. And so be faithful with you and grow your skills and sharpen some dynamics in your own life, so that when those opportunities come, you're not unprepared, but that you really feel like you're ready to take it on.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thomas Media Group. Tell me about the media group. Tell me about the conglomerate that you're building.
Yeah, super catchy name. It's just my last name.
I love it.
Yeah, really. We're a creative agency, but our name we just couldn't be creative about.
You're saving the creativity for the projects.
That's
you didn't want to expend it on the name.
We want the clients. We want the clients to have all the creativity. Yeah, it started as Mike Thomas Media, which is even more uncreative.
Simple.
But yeah, man, it like I said, when I got furloughed during COVID, so I was kind of in between, and I was trying to figure stuff out. And during that time, I started because I had my first son, I started a dad pod, which was like a dad's podcast, and I was learning video and editing stuff and spending way too much time, but I didn't have a job. You know, I was just figuring it out.
Sure.
Was getting those Biden bucks flowing, just wherever it was.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Biden bucks is crazy.
Whatever. It's not a political podcast.
That's cool. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah.
Biden bucks.
But during that time, it was like I started getting into running, and I ran the LA Marathon at the end of 2021. From someone that, like, I threw up after I ran 0.75 miles. Like I hated running, and I bring that up because I refuse to let a pause in the world pause my destiny. Refused it.
I love that.
So for me, it was like, listen, just because the world's shutting down, I'm not shutting down. I'm going to get better. When I get that call to come back to work, I'm going to be better than when I left work.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, that was a huge moment of me just forward, keep moving, keep growing, keep expanding. And so again, when I came back, I was better, I was sharper, and I was like, man, I'm kind of looking at this job a little different now,
Yeah.
because I just experienced something over here, and now I came back to kind of this safe space,
Yeah.
where they don't really need me to do a ton more. I can just kind of sit here and do base level for the next decade.
Yeah.
But there was something more in me,
Yeah.
you know? And so for me, I had a really difficult conversation, back to the people pleaser thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go to a boss that you love and you respect, and you look him in the eyes and you say, hey man, I'm leaving. And I said that, and he looked at me and he goes, oh man, like, really? Like, are you sure? And again, 5 years earlier, I would have crumbled. And
Yeah.
been like, I'm not sure. Like, you're
Yeah.
right. I'm going to stay here forever.
Right.
But in that
Right.
moment, I had to like stand on my conviction and say, listen, I want you to be my first client. I'm not going anywhere. I just know that I can do this work for you. And I also feel like there's a mandate on my life to help other people do the same.
Yeah.
And it was a really awesome opportunity for me to stick to my guns. I'm a faith guy. Like, I was praying like crazy that whole drive up, like worship music blasting, you know?
Sure.
And so again, I get in that environment. I feel like when you get in environments and you feel like God's with you, you can do anything.
That's a fact.
100% anything.
100%.
And so for me, even the Goliath that I was looking at ended up being my first client. Still a client to this day, 3.5 years later from that conversation.
Yeah.
And so that's where it started. I thought it was just going to be me. And I never intended to have a big business or a big website or a location or anything like that. I just thought, hey, I can get a couple clients. And one of the most impactful things that has happened is when you, as a young person, take a step in the direction that God has called you to, you invite other people to do the same.
Yeah.
And so what happened is I jump out, and then I started getting people asking for different coaching and different dynamics. I've coached almost 50 people, 47 people over the past couple years. We have a team of 5 people. We just had a girl that took a job with us that left this incredibly impressive job, well into 6 figures, plus benefits, bonuses, all this stuff. She saw our page, and she's got 2 young kids, and she said, I want to build business around my life. I want to be a stay-at-home mom first, and then still do marketing and help people. And so she quit that job, and she comes and work with us for 20 hours a week. She just started last month.
I love that.
And these moments are happening where I'm like, listen, I thought it was going to go one way, but as I keep putting one foot in front of the other and serving people well, it doesn't just serve the clients, but you create an ecosystem that other people want to be a part of.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm going to take you back to running. I'm going to ask you a running question.
Oof.
Do you know the last time you ran full speed?
No.
So I heard that like on like TikTok or something like that. Like it was like a question. Like, when's the last time as an adult you ran full speed? Well, no, the last time I ran full speed? This morning. So I just started doing sprints today. I just want to throw that in there.
Wow, you're trying to jab me, bro. I was saying I ran a marathon, then you asked me a question that I said no to, and
No, it's actually an invitation though.
I'll do it.
Run full speed a couple times a week.
It's not going to be as fast as you, but I'll try.
No, I'm not that fast. Trust me, I'm not that fast at all.
Bro, with like the NFL Combine, if there was like a 40 time, I'd be so embarrassed.
Yeah, it'd be terrible. But it felt really good though. That's actually why I'm saying it.
Yeah.
It's because like for a split second, I felt like I was like 17 again.
I'm an athlete, bro.
I want you to do it. Like, so it wasn't so much a jab. It was you got to try it.
I had Chipotle before this, so I'm definitely not doing it.
Not today,
Yeah.
but when you get a chance. But then the next time someone asks you that, you'll be able. Oh, I ran full speed last month.
Yeah.
So you'll know. So
I love it.
It's little things like that.
Yeah, listen,
sometimes.
I'll tell you, like, and again, the running thing is funny, but it's if your whole world is revolved around work. And if you don't have these outlets, because for me, running is actually more of a mental thing than a physical thing. So
Yeah.
I run 20 miles a week, every single week. If I don't do that, there's something off with my equilibrium. Like my whole flow, my whole stuff, it feels like I need that mental time.
Yeah.
It fills my bucket, right? Like that's the whole deal. And so I think for anyone that's listening that, if you're too passionate about work, I know this sounds bad to say, if you're too passionate about work and development and I just got to keep getting better, like that's great and that's inspiring, but make sure that you don't gain the whole world and lose your soul.
Right.
Make sure that you have things in your life, journaling in the morning or going on runs or even walks or whatever it is. Just make sure you have that set up as well.
It's like the balance within the imbalance, because it's never really balanced, but at the same time, you know, and the workout thing is really, it's funny because, so that's why I'm running full speed, not just because, you know, the post said it, but I'm also doing it because, so I'm down like 15 pounds, right?
Go.
So I'm down like 15 pounds. And, you know, my guy, Steve, who's running the switcher, Steve is 36 years old, and Steve can bounce up to the rim and dunk with 2 hands like it's nothing.
So can I.
See,
I'm just kidding.
I'm not there. I'm not there, and I'm trying to get back. So I know that like full speed running, like doing that will help me get back there because dunking brings me great joy. And it's been so long since I did it, and I think I'm able to get back to it. So I figure, all right,
I can only imagine what kind of joy that would bring.
It really is incredible.
I mean, hitting a 3 used to bring me joy, but
bro, dunking is.
If you would have asked me the question, when's the last time I shot a basketball, that would have been painful because we used to run at like the Y at like 6 a.m. with like all these old people, and I felt awesome. I mean, these guys are so bad. This makes me feel so good.
Right.
That was like 5-6 years ago, man. I'm like, anyway.
Sorry, you're good back. So for Thomas Media Group, right? So like, what type of clients do you serve, and how do you find your clients, right? So where do you go to get them?
Yeah. So one of the things that we've talked with our team recently about is you know, in any line of business, do not ask someone to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. Period. Just the level of integrity of, I'm not going to sell you something that I'm not also using. Right. So for us, we've been having some really great conversations as a team where our tagline is building business in good company. So we know that if we're going to spend all this time building out other people's businesses and brands, we actually want to like them.
Yeah.
Like we actually want to hang out with these people and golf with them and play basketball with them and whatever else. And so, you know, for us, it's just really important that we get to know the companies that we're working with, so then we can highlight their culture instead of trying to fit them into our mold, because we are the voice of them online, right? And we know that in today's world, your online presence is the curb appeal of your business. It's your online resume, right? And so I can't I can't book a dinner reservation for my wife without her going to Instagram and seeing all the pictures and like making sure that she likes the menu. Right. She's not going to the website necessarily, but you best believe she's going to the Instagram, she's seeing how many followers they got, is this legit? Right. She's making an assessment based on what they're showing online. Yep. And there's way too many companies, bro. Like, it's pretty sad, but there's way too many companies that their most recent post is like a 2022 Merry Christmas post, and it's like a stock footage picture of Santa. Right. And it's just like, if you want to get more clients, it doesn't mean you got to spend more money on ads and all these other things. Just get your culture, get the best part of who you are, and put that on the forefront. And so that's what we've been able to do for clients with video content, social media management. But then, of course, we still offer Google ads, Facebook ads, SEO, kind of all of the full service marketing agency type of components. But our bread and butter is we help their digital presence match or exceed their physical work. So, you know, our whole deal is how do we get what you guys have and put this at the forefront. And we've had a ton of videos go viral, and you know, we had one for Triple O, that client we talked about. It hit 13.1 million hits on TikTok Reels, and like, you know, all sorts of components. And those are fun, right? But the scary part is some businesses are like, oh, just make us go viral. Right. Just give us a dope video that's gonna just make us pop off. And I'm like, we can, and we'd love to. But the reality is, how do you create a long conversation that you're inviting people into? Right. Instead of just these quick hit things where you're trying to get all eyes on me, all eyes on me. Right. How do you get eyes on their needs and bring yourself in as the solution to the problems? Right. Right.
And I think a lot of people don't even realize how, if you don't have the right infrastructure, going viral can work against you. Yes. Because if you got this great viral thing, and then, you know, I go and I get it, or I go and I explore, then when I get to the thing, and the thing is not equal or congruent to what I saw in the viralness, now not only did you lose a customer and not get the sale, but now you also, like, I'm not a raving fan. You know, now I might even become a detractor because you had the viral and this, and it's funny because there's a guy on social media, and I don't know him. He's literally just a guy selling stuff. But it's just like, I see him going from niche to niche to niche. And it's just like, man, what do you believe in? Yeah. Because right now it just seems like you don't have anything vested in anything. You just follow money, which, I mean, maybe that's not bad, but like, I'm not going to buy anything from them because last month you were talking about this and now you're talking about this, and I don't know.
Well, I think if people are, whether they're listening to this or they're a business owner, if people are in a place where they just simply want virality or they just want to be well known or whatever else, what happens is they become fools. So you think about the people that go viral, like they're like doing like the prank videos in Walmart or like random places, and they're like younger influencer people that are just like doing pranks, and some of them are getting arrested for it or, you know, whatever else. Right. They're doing foolish things. To try to just get a rise out of people. And again, if you want your business to be taken seriously, you still have fun and still jump on trends and different components, but don't live there. You know, you need to have a message that you're trying to get across. And 100%. Typically for us, it's what value are you providing? It could be in the form of humor, but also, you know, tips and tricks, and, you know, here's some problem solution framework type things that we can help with. And again, for us, a lot of our businesses, they treat social media as, oh, the intern can do this, or the girl at the front desk, you know, she can do this on top of her job and everything's fine. And again, for us, it's, does the quality of what people see online match what they get from your product or service? If it doesn't, then you should probably up that a little bit. And whether you work with us or anybody else, it shouldn't be someone's like extra job. It should be something that you guys really do focus on, you know? But again, cheap plug to anyone listening that's in that like 18 to 25 range, provide value, period. So what I just said is there's so many businesses out there that are just throwing that on as an extra element. This pocket of people, Gen Z, they know way more about social media than I do.
On accident.
On accident, sure.
That's a fact.
And so again, it's like that may feel a little bit silly to you, like, oh, nobody needs this. Everybody needs this. I'm sitting in boardroom meetings with people going like, and this is before TikTok is going away, but they're sitting in boardroom meetings going like, how do we do TikTok? Is
it really going away? Did it all pass?
I don't know. I mean, I run a marketing agency, so I should know, but I think it'll probably be like 2 years away, but it's, unless an American company buys it or whatever, I think.
That's kind of wild.
So we should buy it.
We should. Let's work on that.
All right, got it.
And I even want to piggyback on the aspect of value, because I think so many young people here, you know, create value, add value. Very simple, very simple. Value is you wanted the sneakers more than you wanted the dollars that it cost to buy the sneakers. That's value. Like you said, it is more important for me to have these pair of shoes than to have this $225. So you exchanged. That's what value is. So you have to start to ask yourself, like, what can I do where people will say, hey, I want this from you more than I want, maybe because it could be time. It doesn't always have to be a money exchange, but I want this from you more than I want, you know, this money in my pocket. I'll trade you for that, you know, or I want this from you more than I want this time. You know, I mean, that's what entertainment is. That's what the arts are, right? If you go to an art show, right, and you buy a ticket for that art show, you're saying that, man, like, I want to stand here and I want to look at this art and I want to be involved in the conversations about art more than I want this $25 in my pocket that it costs to get this ticket. So value is actually the intersection. It's the exchange where people determine, hey, this is what I'm willing to give or sacrifice to have that. So now you have understanding that framework, understanding what value is. Go and give it to as many people as you can, because that's how this all works.
And you don't have to sell it either. Like the key word there is give it. And the Thomas Media Group secret sauce, I'm letting you in real quick. Value generates trust, and trust generates revenue.
1,000,000%.
So if you are giving value, all of a sudden people are going to go, I trust Best Bet Dan because he's giving value in this topic. As they trust you, you're not selling them anything. You're giving them value, giving them value, giving them value. The trust is continuing to grow. Then it's like, hey, we got 10 spots available for this conference, or hey, we got this podcast, or we got this book that's coming out. It's only $10, you know, download it, whatever. Well, I trust him. He's an expert in that space. I'm going to buy that.
Boom.
So again, value generates trust, trust generates revenue.
Boom.
Yeah.
I love this. I love this. Mike, thanks for coming on the show, man. I think that was like a great spot to end it.
Yeah. Hey, I'm all about it. And yeah, I mean, I want to encourage you in front of your audience. Like, I respect you so much. And I think what you're doing is, for those that maybe don't know, again, I'm sure there's been some people on here that have known you longer, but the man I look at today is someone who has refused to let no be the final word. And I just want to encourage you and lift you up in front of your audience, because you have gone to every corner, you have gone to every height, gone to every depth to ensure that you are not showing up empty-handed for the people that you're serving. And I honor that and respect that so much out of you.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. It's funny. You want to know something crazy? One of the next episodes that I'm going to have, and it's funny because I thought about seeing if Steve wanted to do this episode with me. So I was going to do an episode called Only L's.
I love it.
Where literally we just talk about losses the whole episode.
That's a really great idea.
Yeah. You down?
You know I am.
Only L's.
He's like, I'd love to talk about losses. Let's go.
Only L's.
That's a really great idea.
So, but Mike, man, I appreciate you, man. I love what you're doing. I only see success for you. You know, I've watched you make the transitions and keep killing it. So where can people find you if they want to keep in touch, they want to reach out, they want to be a part of the journey? Where can they find you?
Yeah, Instagram, Michael L. Thomas is kind of our hub. We've got our business page and stuff, which you can follow. And then we do have some coaching dynamic stuff, which I'm sure you and I will collab on in the future. But give us a follow, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Trying to do TikTok, but my son always steals my phone, and like he I'll get a text from a friend like, yo, G posted something on your TikTok again. I'm like, hey, they go more viral than mine. So
right.
But yeah, man, connect with me. Would love to connect, and happy to continue to grow the network. And man, if you're looking for an internship or being a part of this crazy thing, I'm telling you, man, hit this dude up.
Yes, we do need that. I do need that. What he said.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, listen. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. It's always a pleasure to have conversations with great people, because conversations with great people make great things happen. So if you haven't already, please smash the like button. Drop some comments too. I love to engage with you guys. But all of those good things. Follow me on Insta, bestbetdan1. And until next time, hey, these are the things, the conversations like this and building high value communication skills are the things that will give you the best bet to create the life of your dreams. I'm out. Peace.